Hello and welcome to this special talk program on Nepal Television. I am Devendra Subedi. In this series, we have been talking about various issues of national interest. Today, we talk about our national security. And to talk about national security, Nepal's strategy in the wake of the 21st century, we have invited retired Major General of Nepal Army, Dr. Purna Bahadur Silwal. Dr. Silwal, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Of course, national security is a term that we often hear in every rhetoric of national interest. But what exactly national security means? What are the things that come within its range?
Devendra ji, simply put, national security is all about protecting Nepal's national interest against external threats. But in the case of Nepal, we also consider threats coming out of Nepal as well. When you talk about national interest, a Constitution of Nepal in Article 5, Article 51, Article 266 and Article 267 mention about national interests. What are the national interests of Nepal? Some of them are, for example, political independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity and national unity, economic prosperity, democratic values, human security, access to the sea as a landlocked country, environmental security. There are many other elements which constitute the national security of Nepal, and it has to be protected at all costs using our various means available to us.
So, national security as such is not just about defending the territories of the countries. There are many things that come within its periphery.
Generally, there are two concepts in the world. First concept talks about protecting the territory and the people living within that territory. That is called traditional concept, in which military power is generally used to defend the borders, to protect the people. But there has been some evolution after 1970s, and other elements such as economic elements. In our context, national unity is very important. Democratic values, human rights. There are many other aspects which may constitute national security in Nepal that would not require military power to protect or to promote them.
Countering the threats, external threats as well as internal threats. In your long career in the Nepal Army, what basic threats internally that you saw to our national security?
When we talk about national security, we do not talk about non-military threats. We generally talk about threats that might jeopardize our national interest or national security. For example, insurgency, armed insurgency, terrorism, secessionist element. Right now, I don't want to specify, but if you go a little earlier, then we had insurgency problem, we have secessionist problem, there were mushrooming of armed groups in Tarai, and still we have a new Maoist group led by Biplab, which is, can be emerged as a threat in future. So state has to, monitor continuously.
What about extremism and radicalism that's growing all across the world, not just in Nepal?
Extremism is also a part of national security. Many countries, give high priority in tackling those threats. Nepal also, has seen, or in the future we might see, as the international environment is evolving very quickly, we might see such threats coming into Nepal as well. So we must be very vigilant. You have range of national interests, and we based on their importance, we divide them or we categorize them into a survival or very important interest, important interest, and peripheral interest. For the very important interest, country uses all its resources as well in order to protect it. For example, territorial integrity. Country will use all its resources at its hand in order to defend it.
That comes under the very important national interest.
If you talk about important, mostly it is achieved through diplomatic negotiations, through give and take,
Shall we talk about the difference between national policy strategy and the policy?
Yes, since our constitution has already identified what are our national interests, and national security policy 2075 Bikram Sambat has also described what are our national interests. So in that context, and we have to develop how those policies will be carried out at various line ministry levels, at security agency levels. Those things are being done at the moment.
You talked about national interest. You talked about diplomacy earlier as well. So what is the role of foreign policy, and what is the connection between the foreign policy of the country and national security policy?
National security policy is formulated in order to protect or promote all the national interests. So this is an overarching document. It's at the top. This is at the government level. But when you talk about line ministry level policies, we talk about foreign policy, we talk about defense policy, we talk about economic or financial policy, we talk about, let's say, energy policy. So these policies are there to achieve the goals of the national security policy.
So does it mean protecting our borders to protecting a major project of national importance, let's say a hydropower project? They both come under national security.
In developing those projects or those interests, if there is a threat from external sources, then we relate this with the national security. While planning, domestic matters. When there is a threat, for example, if water sharing between two countries, and if there are certain threats against our population, against our territory, while implementing, in the process of implementing those interests, that will be in relation with the national security. There is a difference between Constitution of 1990 and current Constitution. Constitution of 1990 talked about very traditional concept of national security. Mandate given to National Security Council then was to operate and use the Royal Nepalese Army only. But if you look at current mandates, as per the current constitutions given to the National Security Council, it talks about national unity as well. It talks about if there is any economic disarray and some threats arise out of that, then Nepalese Army will also be mobilized. In that context, there are so many other elements. I talked about earlier about the environmental issues, stability issues, democratic values. So when you talk about all those elements of national security, you are talking about beyond the military domain.
Dr. Silva, thank you so much for explaining it in such a way, because as many of us, including myself, we believe national security as a blanket term. It just refers to protecting our borders or something else. So thank you so much for explaining it in such a way. Does national security or protecting our national interests is totally or solely the responsibility of Nepal Army alone, or what is the exact role of Nepal Army in this?
No, as I touched upon a little earlier, there are certain things which Nepalese Army is specifically tasked to. It is the primary role of the Nepalese Army, particularly not only about Nepalese Army, for every national army, protecting the territory against military threat is the responsibility of the national army.
Nepal Army is not just involved in protecting our borders. There are many development works, major projects that Nepal Army itself is carrying out. Can we connect that work, the involvement of Nepal Army in those development projects, to national security or national interest?
Sure, because our constitution talks about, as I said earlier, some of the national interests of Nepal are economic development and prosperity, environmental security. So while Nepalese Army is doing some nation building works, construction of roads or highways, you are directly contributing in economic development. Because economic development, prosperity, one of our national interests, is contributing not only in traditional security aspect, but non-military interest of the state as well.
We are a landlocked country. Is there any difference between the strategy and policy and strategy of the country depending on the geography?
Of course, yes. Because, if we were not landlocked, our problem would have been entirely different.
Okay.
We are landlocked. In that also we are, locked by two giant neighbors in terms of its population, its economy, its military power. You just name it.
Yeah.
In any point we are, weaker. We are smaller. That's why we have a very unique national security problem. As an open country with open border and as a landlocked country, we are constrained in our flexibility, to pursue our national interest independently, freely. That is one of the constraints. But there are some strong points also, because since we are situated between two giant markets, if we can develop ourselves industrially, we can export by utilizing their huge markets. Generally, their interests are contradicting in many senses. For example, we have committed that we will not allow our territory be used by any elements against our neighbors. So that happens because of our geopolitical scenario. And China has interest in Tibet. They don't want anti-China activities here. Probably India doesn't want anti-India sentiments growing in Nepal, and other big powers also have their interest in Nepal. Considering all those interests, putting into the context, so we have to be very smart enough, taking into account our geopolitical vulnerabilities or strength as well, learning lessons from the history. Because there are so many guidelines and doctrines and policies formulated by our ancestors, which has brought us till today, to our 250 years of history. So we have so many experiences that can guide us, to come out of this current problems created by, conflicting interest of three major powers.
You just spoke about the geopolitical vulnerability of our country. At this point of time, how do you assess our national security policy, especially with the updating of the map of the country, including the territories of Limpiadura, Lipulekh and Kalapani?
No, our national policy objective right now is to take back the territory as we already updated in the map. That is our goal. That is our state national objective. So how do you achieve that? For that you have to have a strategy. You have to have a detailed strategy. Like, for example, now Indian strategy looks like that they don't want to sit on the negotiating table. They want to delay it, and they want to even ignore discussing the issues right now. This is their current strategy. So what our strategy should be in that context? Our strategy is to bring them into negotiating table as soon as possible.
So, by all means, especially through diplomacy, that should be pursued, in your opinion.
Exactly, diplomacy has to come into action, and diplomacy has different tools. For example, it starts from track 1, sometime to track 10 also. So you have to explore. Sometime both countries, leaders of both the countries, diplomats of both the countries talk about roti-beti relations, open border, our ancient historical cultural relations, our brotherly relations, all those elements, if those are the elements of our bilateral relations, why don't you use that as a tool in order to further our objectives, or bring India into negotiating table, or solve the problem altogether?
Do you think this was an unexpected move for India, that Nepal updated the map at this point of time?
Looks like, because India has controlled militarily that territory since 1962. Until before that, we had administrative control. I would not say military control, because At that time, Indian military checkpoints were deployed in the northern border. So Nepalese army were not present, but we had administrative control in that part of Nepal. And since then, various approaches to get it back hasn't worked. So it has been a long time, about 6 decades or so. So probably looking at they are also including that part of piece of the territory into their map, and, construction and inauguration of the roads openly. Explains that they were not expecting Nepal to reclaim or claim that piece of territory in the wake of COVID pandemic.
Do you think our weaker presence in those territories since long prompted this sort of claim from our southern neighbor?
You are very right. What happened is we should have protected our borders from the very beginning of India's independence, because during British rule, Nepal and British India, actually they put all the border pillars all along Indian border. There was no problem until that time, because Jangge pillar are there. That was not there. That was not established after India got independence. It was there before that. But at that time there was a kind of consensus that border lies somewhere in this line. So problem started, encroachment started after 1960s, 70s, and we started keeping ourselves quiet, thinking that we are good neighbors. With that spirit, we are brothers. We have so many deeper relations that go beyond state to state relations. All that points taken into considerations. Probably Nepal thought that it did not take it very seriously. Nepal thought that once we approach, at the opportune moment, it will easily solved.
Now, we recently have had some of border outposts established in some of the major areas like the far western territories that we have updated in our map now. Do you think this is a very delayed move?
I think so, because India has deployed its border security BOPs, SSBs deployed all along Nepal-India border, particularly after we had Maoist problem. We should have started deploying our security agencies as well since then.
Do you think it's time to assign one of our security organizations with a special task of protecting our borders now?
That is the point I have been hammering on in various forums, whenever I get chance. Creating a special security agency dedicated to border security towards north and towards south, east, west. You have to have a dedicated security agency. Then only their professional development, their equipment, their training will be geared towards strengthening the international boundary or border. Now APF has deployed some of its resources, some of its manpower in border areas, but dividing its role into internal security as well as border security might divert their main focus.
So you still believe it's high time?
I think I still recommend to the concerned authority of the government that they should have either armed police force fully dedicated to the border, or create another one, so that their main focus, their training, their capacity building would be geared towards that direction.
Various superpowers have various strategic interests in countries, and includes Nepal. Now, do you see this as a clear point, and Nepal should be aware of those things?
You are very right. Very good question. As the country becomes stronger, economically powerful, your interest keep expanding. All over the world. China is becoming #1 economic power in a couple of years' time. India is also gearing towards becoming economic power, and America is already a power. So they have their interest in Nepal, and as long as their interest does not contradict or confront with
our national
interest, there should not be any problem. When there is a threat, or when some of our friendly countries' interest is overlapping or contradicting with our interest, then we have to give top priority to in protecting our national interest. For that, we have to have a very smart diplomacy. We have to provide security to those legitimate interests, genuine interests.
And should be strong enough to reject the non-legitimate and that are contradicting to our national
their interest undermining our very interest within our territory have to be dealt with accordingly.
The Millennium Challenge Corporation, or the MCC, is a big talking point in Nepal at this point of time. Some have questioned it contradicts with our national interests and security. What's your take on that?
I think, country like Nepal, whenever we discuss about such a sensitive issue, probably it should be the government institutions, government mechanism that should carry out detailed research, detailed analysis, and then reach to a right conclusion and recommend to the government to take right decision at right time. But what is happening here is that we are delaying the process, prolonging, protecting, and it's now spill over in the people level, where they don't have general people cannot assess the foreign policy affairs. So that has to be tackled by the government, in my opinion.
When we talk about security, national, internal as well as external, there's a big role of intelligence.
Right.
How strong is our intelligence service in this country?
I have to say this, that we have to enhance the capability of our intelligence agencies. We have to probably revamp some of the intelligence agencies, or strengthen them with manpower, with technology, with funds, because intelligence requires fund. You cannot get intelligence. You cannot send your staff abroad to gather information. So you have to spend money. So you have to have enough fund, enough manpower, enough technology, enough mobility resources. I think we have to give much focus in this time of the country, with various challenges, new challenges coming on the horizon. We have to give much focus, importance, and we have to know what's going on within the country and beyond against our interest.
Dr. Silwal, we're almost coming to an end to this conversation. How do you see the transition of Nepal Army from the absolute control of monarchy to the recruitment phase of one-time warring Maoist rebels and now into a federal democratic republic?
If you see the history of Nepalese army, it has evolved since Prithviraj Shah, till we have federal republic now. It has always remained under the government control, under the leadership of the then government or the system. Same is the case in 2006 and coming until today, that Nepal tried to smoothly transit from one system to another. It has also facilitated the political parties to transit from previous system to the new system. It is the role played by the Nepalese army as well, because without security forces, maintaining security, which cannot happen, particularly after handing over of Maoist weapons to the government and integration of the Maoist combatants, I think things are very normal. Now Nepalese army is fully under civilian control.
Dr. Silwal, my last question to you. Do you see the spillover effect of the developments between our two immediate neighbors going on at this point of time in the Himalayan frontiers in Nepal?
I'm sure it will have, because they are close neighbors, and what's going on even further, in other part of the world also indirectly affect to our situation. But these two countries are our neighboring country, and war, if they fight at all, it's not going to be very far away from Nepalese territory. So it will have direct or indirect ramifications. So we have to closely monitor what's going on between them and take our preventive measures, because we have assured both neighbors that our territory will not be used against them. So we have to ensure that that would not happen in any worst case scenario. So we have to ensure that it will be controlled. Nepalese territory is controlled by Nepalese security forces at all time.
So for the moment, keep vigilant, be vigilant, keep watching the developments very closely. Thank you so much, Dr. Purnavi Silwal, a PhD scholar on Nepal's national security from Tribhuvan University, who also did his master's from the National War College under the National Defense University in the US, for sharing your expertise and knowledge to all our viewers on national security and simplifying those terms, big terms, into our viewers' knowledge. That's all we have in this program. We talked about our national security, our national interest, how it is connected to different aspects, including environmental issues, humans, and even economy. That's all for this episode of this special talk program on Nepal Television. Until next time, from all of us here, including myself, Devendra Subedi, goodbye and namaste.